Yeah,
Can you move that a little higher so we can't see your face?
Yes, I can just sit like that.
Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast. Little behind the curtain situation here is Tom and I are sitting here chatting. Mike's texting. I can't get my microphone to work. He was on mute.
I was not on mute. I was troubleshooting some shit.
Tom, was he on mute?
Yes, he was. I just realized I can actually hide behind the logo here.
At the very end, I was on mute. That was not the initial.
Unmuted. We could hear him.
Yes,
and alas, we're on the air. So, hello everyone. We were going to be joined tonight by James Benge of Football.London, but a few hours ago.
Sorry.
No, listen to what he said. This is good. I got an email from him. He said, and I quote, I think in the podcast world, we need to give more time on massive podcasts like the Gooners pod to the young up and coming generation of journalists, because there's this whole group of one journalist who needs and deserves the exposure that, an appearance on a podcast like this can provide. So he said, I will join you in the next few weeks, but only if you have a guy on tonight that has enormous breadsticks. Okay.
Yeah.
Only if you have Tom Canton from the Gooner Talk TV on tonight and give him a little bit of that Gooners pod bump that will set his career on a new trajectory.
Wait.
So,
how did you know about the giant breadsticks if you're not on Instagram?
Tom, tell him.
I can't remember. How do you know about the giant breadsticks?
Because you're a multimedia person and you put it on Twitter.
Oh, I put it on Twitter.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
You put it on Twitter, and that's how I know about it.
Yeah.
Or Mike is stalking you through a...
Maybe I have a Finsta. Maybe I have a Finsta that nobody knows about, which I can credit my daughter for telling me what that is. So, Andy, I'm not going to deny James Benge what he asked for. And so welcome back to the pod, a man who, many people call the Benjamin Button of podcasting, and not just because he's mature for his age, but because obviously he'd be played by Brad Pitt in the movie. He's skilled at reading the body language of Arsenal players as they debark from buses. He's dynamic enough to currently be playing 2 games of FIFA against Michael Hernandez while podcasting with us. He loves himself an indigenous and some roosters. It's Tom, don't call him Thomas Canton. We love you, buddy. Thanks for joining us on short notice.
Fine. Yes, no, I was doing nothing at this hour, specifically this hour. So you were very lucky. Yes.
Are you going to share with us what you're going to be watching in 54 minutes, or is that?
Well, it's not Love Island. It's not Love Island.
I already accused him of that.
No, we have a bit of a routine at the moment of watching and catching up on The Rookie. Do you know? Have you ever watched The Rookie?
Mm-mm.
It's an American show.
Well, rookie's generally an American term, I think.
It's Nathan Fillion, who plays like this very young, well, not young, but like he's a rookie cop in LA. So it's quite a good show. If you watch it, you should go watch it. It's on Sky Witness. So yeah.
What's the English version of Rookie? The Duck Breaker? Is that what they call him over there?
Trainee.
Starlet. Okay, well, you've been a busy guy lately. You've been you've been grafting. You've been putting out tons of interesting content on your channel, networking with foreign sources to bring people information on every single bozo that we've been matched with in the transfer market. And it's refreshing because watching YouTube clips don't usually give you the best way to rate these guys. I saw a YouTube clip once with Squillaci where he looked like prime Lothar Matthäus. And it was 45 seconds of him making the one good movie ever made in his career, just over and over again from different angles. But your most recent tactical breakdown is fascinating. It's called, and I quote, Arsenal sign Pablo Mari. So who is he?
I quickly changed that.
Do we need that? Because that's still what the artwork is saying.
Yeah, I know. The artwork says the same, but I changed it to Arsenal to sign because I was like, as soon as the news broke that it was basically going to pot, I was like, oh crap, I've got to change this. But I literally uploaded one about 15 minutes ago on Pablo Mari again, just going a bit more in depth with someone else. So
adding to his play the details of the last 48 hours.
Yes.
Where
it's now called Arsenal to sell Pablo Mari.
Maybe we signed him and sold him, and that's why he went back.
That's business.
Turned around. It's called arbitrage. That's not an English word, but it's fancy as hell. So you've also done breakdowns where you've been joined by regional experts, let's call them, for people like Thomas Lamar, Jan Mavila, Mikola Matvienko. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you just basically using this to establish like places to stay when you travel the world?
It's good to have like it's quite funny because I remember we have this guy called what's his name? I can't remember his name. Miguel, who lives in Lisbon, and basically
there goes your free housing in Lisbon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that we had him on for a show a couple of years ago talking about, I think it was when we were playing Sporting Lisbon in Europa League or whatever, and when me and my other half went out there. He was like offering me to show me around Lisbon and stuff. So it is weird how you sort of like get into that. I'm not married yet, no, but very close. So
I saw how close they were to being married. I personally, I don't mean like that, but because you would never do that until you're married. But so you do tactical breakdowns. You've got raw reactions, occasional passionate rant. Any other shows you have in the works that don't involve your mates ghosting you every time you ask for their help?
Eyes of the Opposition shows are quite good, where we get like the opposition fans to come on and then say what they're thinking. But no, mostly it's raw reactions, and I attempt to do podcasts, but as you say, people just ghost me, so I never really get a roster. Andy's always making up excuses, and you're just.
Andy posts pictures of him in various tropical and sporting locations. Speaking of sporting, how you holding up, mate? Bruno, are you? We're gonna make him cry. He was so excited yesterday when Bruno Fernandes apparently was headed to Barcelona instead of Manchester United.
I have him on the back of a shirt.
whole world has just come crashing down today.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm kind of flipping it because I'm now sort of just laughing at Man United because if you listen to the Athletics podcast, which they're doing at the moment.
I mean, what do they have compared to? I mean, they do. What is it? Gunner Blog, Amy Long. I mean, they don't have any star power.
No. Well, David Ornstein was saying how United basically didn't want to look like mugs and pay over the odds for this guy, and it has taken an utter genius to fool everyone, including me, at Sporting Lisbon to basically make up this story that Barcelona were in for him. And that has then led to United going, "Oh, bollocks, we better actually do something about this, otherwise we're going to lose our guy." And now they've spent basically 80 million quid on him, which includes add-ons. But yeah, I'm gutted.
It's when have they ever cared about that?
He's a great player, but yeah, he's going to there. But what happens? Great players go there, and what happens to him. So yeah, I'm not too fussed.
This might be the nicest compliment we've ever gotten.
Tom Show. And this one of the story. I mean, we'll take it.
I mean, we were the number 2 to their number 1 a couple of years ago on best football podcast in the world. But hey, and Elliot will be joining us soon, so we can talk about how much slower I am than him. My condolences on Bruno, and it's clearly taking a toll on you. You look like you haven't slept in weeks.
That's just the job.
But let's talk about this FA Cup progression, because Andy and I, ever since season 1, have been enormous fans of deep runs in cups. We like doing that. Andy's going with an artsy kind of I'm going to stare off into the middle distance thing today for the podcast. He's trying. It is very sexy.
He's playing FIFA.
He's more likely to be doing.
I was trying to find the Villa Leicester game to put on, and I was just listening to you make fun of Tom's, and
he's like the show's on auto drive when I'm for the Tom torture portion of the podcast.
Sorry, Tom.
But that's over. Although we do have another segment coming up. So let's get to the match. The age of the starting outfield 11. Outfield 10. 5 players 20 and younger. 3 players over age 24. And I've made a big deal on this podcast about how when you take our first team and rank them by age, there is just a line at age 25 that if you look over that, yeah, there are some players with some history and some talent in there. But I wouldn't die if any of them left. And the players under 25 almost exclusively have either shown bouts of brilliance or are already leading this club. So, it just so happens you've just turned 25. That has nothing to do with my theory, Tom. But the average age yesterday.
That's the first time you've actually said my age right.
Yes, well, it's time for me to get with. I'm still stuck when you were a teenager, but the average age of the squad, 22.9 years old yesterday, and it was glorious. I mean, I was pumped up when I saw that lineup, Andy. I mean, did you?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I saw it and I didn't think to myself, oh, goodness, like this could be a rout or nervous. I think he has this great ability to mesh and integrate the youngsters with some of our senior players. So while that lineup was very young, there was an awful lot of appearances in there by some players. So yeah, Tom, I don't know what your thought, if you were excited or nervous about it, but I was pretty happy to see that lineup.
Yeah, I said on the show yesterday, I kind of forgot that Nketiah was back. I was really surprised.
How did that happen?
It was because I don't care.
We're going to get to that, Tom. We're going to get to that.
It's funny because my first initial feeling was, oh, yeah, Nketiah's back. That's quite cool. And then my second was, oh, crap, he's going to score. And Mike's going to text me and say something about him. So, which I'm sure we'll get onto soon. But, yeah, I was really happy with it, to be fair. I saw a lot of criticism. I saw one person. I love doing this thing where you see, like, someone completely, I'm going to ignore that, completely slates the lineup that he puts out, and then after the game, after you won, you look back on those tweets and they look like such fools afterwards.
It was like a broken English tweet by somebody who clearly English is their first language. So I'm not making fun of bilingual, like just what Willock and Nketiah, come on, you know, like Arteta's stupid type of thing.
Yeah,
it didn't age well.
Crazy. He's lost it.
Although I wouldn't put it back. Andy's strategy is to post stuff that makes us look ridiculous to kind of gather some retweets and some attention and stuff, like with the.
I do it to upset people.
And to basically troll. And so I'm surprised that we haven't done that, because you know those tweets bang.
They really do. We should actually do that. I just like making people mad. I mean, so let's go to the soccer goal. I mean, like the touch, the hit was absolutely sublime. Mike, a keeper should never get beaten at his near post, but from that close and at that speed, it's almost impossible to save. But, you know, I think Arteta said it after the post-match press conference. The kid doesn't want to be playing in that position. He's not the most comfortable in there, but we've seen him against some big opposition hold his own, and it's nice to see him now get a little bit more comfortable attacking and actually push forward and then get a goal.
It doesn't look like he doesn't want to play in that position, and that's like, I guess, and it's early days of him doing that. He certainly hasn't played the wing back or even just the fullback who likes to attack as much as Mainsley's had to, as much as Chamberlain had to that season yet. But I mean, he looks up for it now. You know, I can't speak to his defensive prowess in that position, because he really seemed to be. I mean, his heat map yesterday, I didn't look at it, but it had to be awfully far forward for a left back in a flat four, as opposed to in a wing back type of situation. But
I mean, what was it? 22 touches or passes before the goal went in.
The second one, yeah.
That was the second.
Yeah, okay. The first one was Martinelli, I guess, releasing him on the left, or no, it was Martinelli kind of dishing the ball to him towards the byline and just banging it in from that angle. I mean, you shouldn't be beaten near a post, but if the ball goes through your hands, I mean, the Bournemouth goalkeeper suffered a broken hand trying to get his hands on that one. So it was a beautiful passage of play, and it's like these guys, Tom.
I'm here.
It's like these guys.
Tom and I were
just my contacts.
Tom and I were just texting each other in a group.
You guys are playing quiz up while the three of us are potting. Yeah, I mean, it's like almost these guys know where they are on the pitch, each other. Like there's this.
Yeah, there's sort of that underlying like sort of knowledge and what's the word, telekinesis. Is that what it's called? Like we just got that sort of psychic energy that's going between. They clearly know where each other.
I know that.
Pitch. Yeah, it shows that, and what's nice to see, I think I saw Clive, ironically from the Arsenal Vision podcast, tweet out saying,
a quicker older brother.
Yeah, a quicker older brother. But saying about how the fact that you can see what Arteta's trying to deploy with the first team with these younger guys, and that's a really solid sign that it's not just focusing around the starting 11, but it's already bleeding into the younger teams. What happened, Andy? Something nearly happened because your facial expression changed. Sorry,
Lesser off the post crossbar.
Would you please pay attention to the podcast? Please focus on the show.
Last time I was here, I got berated for doing something whilst being on the pods, and Andy's there like watching another game of football.
Well, at least we have one professional journalist out of the lot of us.
So, was there anything else you wanted to add, Tom, before I interrupted you on that?
No, just basically, I think it's just really effective to see how having Arteta's philosophy bleed into those younger players already at such an early stage is clearly a big sign that things are on the up. And I was watching the BT Sport coverage, and they were talking to fans outside the ground, luckily fans that aren't interviewed on a regular basis, and they just effectively were going about how impressed they are that the impact has been so genuine already, and they can get behind this, and I think people are pleased with it. So yeah, I was really, really happy with what I saw from the youngsters yesterday.
And I feel like we're hearing this at a lot of different points throughout the last month and a half of Arteta's tenure, is that he's brought in something that they're all buying into, and it makes me believe that Unai Emery never had something to sell to them, right? Because it appears like when we were even on the pitch, we weren't producing good football, at least when, that loss to Chelsea, some of the draws that we're seeing under Arteta, you still see this system in place, right? There's moments where we fail with defensive mistakes or poor deflections or something, but you can at least walk away from a match that we drop points in and say, but I see what he's trying to do. And now with, some time for these guys to get fit, players getting back from injury, rotation, we're starting to see actual results slide our way, which is nice. Mike, there was a second goal scored.
Can I ask a question before we talk about that, though? Because
sure.
It's on this topic of Arteta, and it's a poorly formed thought that just came up with. But as far as the general fan kind of acceptance and warmth and praise for Arteta, you think it was always kind of going to be the case that the first coach after Arsene Wenger was going to struggle to really he would have literally had to have won the league or the highest trophies available to him in that season, like the Europa League, in order to even buy himself more time, because there was always going to be a comparison made. And once he was flushed out, and unfortunately it was not in a good way, the next guy was always going to have the better chance of uniting the club, as long as he showed it on the pitch. I mean, you still have your Arteta out people, and not just the one goofball that posted that yesterday after the lineup. You're still going to have, you're going to have other goofballs who live in Spain that are posting that. But,
living.
The vast majority of people either living in, I don't know how wide my camera angle was to catch that, but you're going to have people who are, anti whoever, but even people who were anti the hire, Andy, yourself among them, have come around pretty quickly over the last 6 weeks. It seems like we got like an 80 to 90% approval rating at this point, if there were such a thing.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's – maybe it was anti-hire. I just think that at the time, and I think we talked about it a lot in our little text group, there were just better names available. Again,
names don't win things.
No, it's still early days, right? But you can tell that I think the biggest issue I had with Arteta from the get-go was that this locker room seemed cancerous at a certain point. And we talked about it last week, where he has turned things around and he's made players want to stay, and he's done stuff to allow these players to feel like they're valued as players.
And he's getting the best out of them.
But to your point, I don't know that the manager. A lot of people hated Arsene on his way out, and so if Arteta was that manager, I think he'd still be in the job today, unlike Unai Emery. Because
and people who hated Arsene on the way out almost had to force themselves to support Emery until it was just absolutely no longer possible.
But again, we're talking about people who like to hate for the reason of hate, not necessarily have a pure reason behind it, right? I
think I probably gave Unai Emery too long of a leash because of my desire
I think everyone wanted him to succeed.
The non-Arsene angle of it. But
so who is succeeding right now? I'm going to segue to it. There's a guy named Eddie Nketiah. Now, Mike, I remember someone saying once that he would never be good enough to play for Arsenal. But yesterday we saw, and then the same person said, well, it was technically an open goal that he scored.
I'll do one.
Hold on. I believe the situation is this. He said once that Nketiah was a shittier version of Yaya.
Went back and found it.
I forgot to celebrate our 1 year anniversary of this a few weeks ago, Tom. By the way,
likes on that. That's not bad.
the prove me wrong part didn't come in the initial post like you like to make it seem. By the way, it was just a general statement.
It was in the video that I said that.
Look how sage a certain person posting as the Gooners podcast. Andy, really good job on this one. That made a very good point and urged patience. Patience comes with age and experience. And Tom, you'll get there. But I think we're seeing it now. Now in private, Tom said Nketiah was a shittier version of Yaya Sanogo. I remember him saying he was Marouane Chamakh with worse hair. He said that he couldn't. He deleted this, but he said he couldn't even beat you, Andy, in a charity shootout, which is the most damning thing I've ever heard. And he said he would have trouble making the reserve team at Racing Club de Santander at the bottom of Feeder League Second Division. So we'll ask our Spanish correspondent if we can get him on the line how that would be. But
Tom, is your opinion changing on Eddie now that you've seen him out on loan having some short success and now seeing him back at Arsenal and hearing Arteta say he is a player that they see with a future at the club?
And we are keeping this up for the rest of the podcast.
Look, there's two schools of thought in my mind. The first one is, let's not get carried away after one performance. It was a very, very poor Bournemouth side. And besides, let's be honest, a tap-in. I mean, he had a bright game. I said it on the show yesterday. It was a good performance. At the end of the day, that is his style of striker. He is a poacher of goals. He's not someone that's going to take the ball from 30, 40 yards from goal and run at the opposition. He's not going to be a Lacazette that drops deep and makes things happen. He's going to be more of an Alba type that has the pace to get in behind when necessary and finish the goals that he gets the chances for. The point I was getting at by saying that I didn't think that he would make it is more down to the fact of his size, more down to the fact that I just think he's unfashionable, and I don't think
not all of us are 6'3" and metrosexual like you do.
I just don't. It's just the same with Willock. Both of them don't give me this sense of I can put my faith in and I put my house in it and say these two guys are going to make it. I just don't feel I have that confidence in them yet. And I always maintain, whenever criticising a player, and I think there are completely the right times and the right way to criticise a footballer, especially if he's one of your own clubs. I just think that he's a player that needs to show a lot on a consistent basis and get a lot more minutes. That's why I was gutted about the Leeds loan. I was ecstatic when it happened because I was thinking, right, they've only got Patrick Bamford there. They needed another striker in. He's going to get loads of time. And when he was starting out there, he was coming off the bench and he was scoring goals. And it made no sense why Bielsa did not give him enough chances. And I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, they've tried to explain that, but there's not really a really good explanation.
It's a load of BS.
Bamford this or what? I don't understand.
It's just deflecting. It's a classic. It's Mourinho-esque in terms of deflection what Bielsa was doing. But they've gone out and they've now signed Jean-Kevin Augustin from RB Leipzig, which is a really, really good signing. But they needn't have to go that far because all they needed to do was to start Nketiah in those games. And I can't yet change my opinion on him until I see him playing more consistently in the first team. He'll obviously play against Pompey, which is great. And I mean, if Lacazette's form continues to falter, even with Arteta backing him to the hill after he's had what I feel was a poor performance, then Nketiah will get chances through the middle. He will get chances. I think there is a good chance he could play against Olympiacos, for instance. And I can't wait to see him try and prove me wrong. And I'll be absolutely buzzing if he does. And that's all I want from those players is whenever I'm critical, I'm desperate for them, whether it's Nketiah or Mustafi or Squillaci. I'd love for them all to prove me wrong.
Squillaci's still with a chance.
You're not just doing it for clicks then and views.
No, God, I don't live
He's doing it for clicks, not for views, though. I don't care if 113% of his Arsenal goals have been tap-ins into open nets. I mean, it's not a coincidence that he finds himself in front of so many open nets. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and as Tom had said, like, he's a poacher by trade, and we don't have that in our squad. And so
my buddy Gabby will tell you that was kind of my style in high school.
Wow.
Pumped in a lot of goals because I was always in the right place because, God forbid, I couldn't move.
So it's nice to have the ability to bring someone off the bench who adds something different. Now, Bournemouth, as Tom had mentioned, weren't great. They didn't do much until the 37th minute when we saw Martinez called into action with a nice low save. He also probably ended Mustafi's Arsenal career. And so is he now our new favorite player?
Figures just I know that's harsh on Mustafi, but just as he's getting his name sung and actually having a good spell, like that started immediately after his ridiculous boner in the last game, carried through the second half of that game and until he got hurt in this game. It is so Arsenal that at this moment, he now is gone for what looks like between 3 and 4 years.
I would be surprised if we see him play for Arsenal again.
Based on the injury or just the injury plus?
Combination. Injury.
Not that bad.
Oh, really?
Apparently it's not that bad.
Well,
I saw a report today that apparently it's just a sprained ankle, so it's not as bad as first feared.
And he's going to hold to that comment. If he's out for 3 weeks, he's going to lose his spot.
I've never seen Andy look more worried.
Yeah. Well, there goes the season, guys.
Oh, no.
So the second half starts off with Bournemouth adjusting well. I thought that they were on the front foot for probably the first 15, 20 minutes. We were losing our rhythm a little bit.
That's when I took my nap. I literally
honestly, to me, one of the reasons why I think they controlled was because they took Willock out of the game. I mean, he in the first half was just running rings around them and creating so much. And then it's almost as if they just played him off the pitch and then they just were able to take over. But what I really liked from this match, and again, we're talking about a bad Bournemouth side, we were first to almost every 50-50 challenge, which we have not been in the last couple months. And it's just nice to see that change in pace of we're going to fight for every 50-50. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I tweeted out saying that when we scored the first one, we were like dominating the possession, as you say, winning those 50-50 balls. And it's always going to be with the caveat that this Bournemouth side didn't really turn up for the first 94 minutes. And I just thought that in what we saw was that it was a slight shift from the attitude that when Arsenal come up against sides that, to be honest, aren't really at it at the races at that moment, aren't really up for the game. Sometimes we're a bit arrogant. Sometimes we're thinking, oh, they're not up for it. We'll coast this game. We'll eventually get a goal. And the reality of it is that that mentality has cost us points in really key games. And seeing Arsenal proper go at them, and when they had the goal, really try and push for the second and eventually getting that second, shows that there is a shift and a change, and it is the mentality. And I think going back to your original question about the 50-50s, that is encapsulated in the mentality of this team that has changed under Arteta. And the first message that he said when he came in was that if you're not going to get with the program, you're not going to play. And I think that has clearly resonated with these players. And now players like Guendouzi, who've not had a chance to play that much under Arteta, has come in against Bournemouth and had what's his face? Lee Judges called it a man of the match performance, was it, from Guendouzi? So, I mean, unbelievable when Judges says something like that. So yeah, I think that pretty much is the antithesis of what we've seen from Arteta.
You got to hand to the Judges. He won't avoid saying what he thinks just because of a previous agenda. I mean, he'll stick up for what he believes in, which lately has been assaulting my daughter, but that came out wrong.
Can't say
that came out wrong.
That's what Lee said too.
Jesus Christ. No, yeah, I mean the possession. Okay, the possession in the game ended 60-40 to us, but there were passages of play, like 5-minute periods where it was literally 90-10 to us, and a few where we had 172% of the possession. And yeah, it was a total domination for 94 minutes of a struggling team, but it's still a Premier League club playing in their home with one of the smallest away sections in the Premier League, I believe, if not the smallest, playing the full strength big boy lineup in an elimination game. I mean, you still gotta appreciate what what the kids did yesterday, and I don't chalk up the opposition to that at all. I think it was just a very well coached, very well executed game by people who want to play for this club, and the team is changing right before our eyes as far as I'm concerned. Whether it ends with any kind of glory this season or not, I don't know. I don't care as long as it doesn't go back in the other direction.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Bournemouth had us on the ropes quite a bit, and I think
we didn't deserve to beat them in that game.
No, and a lot of teams can go away to Bournemouth and drop points, and every supporter section will say it's Bournemouth away. It's a tough place to go. Defensively, I thought we looked really good yesterday, better than we've looked. Which one of these three faces are serial? Oh, it's definitely Mike. Defensively, I thought we looked really good. We've let and conceded some really weak goals this season, Tom. But yesterday, apart from their goal, which was just a well-timed run and it was a good team goal, like I never felt like we were ever under that much pressure. I never thought like all the mistakes coming. It just seemed like everything was shored up and they had just figured it out.
Yeah, but there's still part of me that while you say that you thought that the goal was just a good team goal, for me, Rob Holding switches off.
True.
And I'm really starting to get concerned about Rob Holding a bit because people are going, oh, why is Rob Holding on the bench? Why has he chosen Mustafi? But I mean, let's be real. At this moment in time, I would have rather have seen Mustafi start over Rob Holding because he's really sort of struggled to come back from this knee injury. And this isn't a slight on the guy because before that knee injury, he was top. Is
he a guy that needs to play his way back into form?
Yes.
I think he needs a loan. I think if it looks like we're gonna bring in a centre back this January, and there's rumours that we might bring in another centre back in the summer, as well as Saliba coming back from loan and Mavropanos coming back from loan, who arguably is another one. Holding 100% needs to go out to another Premier League side. 100% does, because there's no way that he's going to get the minutes to be able to recover from this knee injury that he needs to get back to first team match fitness. And it's desperate. It's desperate.
Can he play in the U23s?
Is it competitive enough though? Like, I think he's gone from playing first team football at Arsenal against like Man United and Man City and playing in the FA Cup final, and I just don't think that with what we're seeing coming in next summer, he's going to see it. I'm reading the chat box and I can see that people don't quite agree with that. But if you look at it realistically, we need to get our head around the fact that, yes, we like Rob Holding, and I really like Rob Holding. I really do. But if you're being genuinely honest with his performances this season since coming back from injury, it's been below par. It really, really has. And I think the only way that he recovers that is by playing competitive minutes for a top team in a top league or just a team in a top league, because we're going to see players like Saliba come back, players like possibly Pablo Mari come in, maybe even Upper Meccano or at Matavienko coming in the summer. And there's going to be a hell of a lot of competition. And if he's not going to get the minutes, he's not going to be able to compete for a place.
Well, all I'm saying is I know the three of us are known for punching above our weight, but it's not surprising me that Holding isn't focused on football maybe this season. Let's just put it that way. That was another Eddie Howe masterclass, Andy. Tom, he's obviously paving the way through his success this season to become the next Arsenal manager. Like you've been tweeting 40 times a day since 2017. I mean, are you prepared to recant that Eddie Howe is the next Ferguson? I believe you said that on a number of occasions.
I feel like I'm in now the Tom Canton. Like Mike is saying things that I never said. So sure,
you did.
I'm ready to recant that he's the not.
I'm gonna go through 700 hours of podcast tape and I'm gonna splice together some things that you said about Eddie Howe. So Bournemouth score towards the end. I mean, it had to happen. I mean, there was just no way that we could win that comfortable. But we allow a goal from Daniel Surridge. He looks a little different than the last time I remember seeing him. Maybe he's just been out of the spotlight for a long time. But Pompey, Andy, are you torn?
No.
Tom, do you know that Andy's English?
Of course I know Andy's English. Of course I know. I'm from Portsmouth then.
I'm not torn because I'm not from Portsmouth. I just lived there for a few years before I moved to America.
Half and half scarf is on its way.
No, I wasn't born there.
He was born in Hemel Hempstead. Hemel Hempstead Albion is actually going to be our opponent in the fifth, in the quarterfinal.
I was actually born in Bury St. Edmunds. I keep telling Mike this, but he likes to just say.
Where did I get Hemel Hempstead from?
Well, because I lived in Hemel Hempstead as a child, growing up to Portsmouth, then to America. You know, Mike, if you're
it could be ours
friend,
to keep track of this.
So I'm excited that my nephews are going to be able to go to the match. And I think this will be the first time, for them to jump on the Arsenal bandwagon.
Well, and all kidding aside, I haven't been to an FA Cup match in 30 years. And if we get past Pompey, I will be changing that because they'll be playing in the last few days of my upcoming trip. So, Tom, you and I are going to go home and away because most of the other scumbags that are coming with me will already be back in America. So we'll have to catch an FA Cup game, but let's not count our chickens before they are.
I think we can count them. I think we're
count our ducks before they're broken.
We should breeze through Portsmouth.
That is the worst recall of that saying, Mike. Let's not count our ducks before they've broken. What?
Yes, exactly. I think that's that was very multicultural of me. So I am very concerned that we may have overestimated Gabriel Martinelli. I mean, he didn't score during the entire fucking game yesterday, and I never saw that coming.
No.
Have we made a mistake?
I think we should sell him. I think we should cut our losses. He's clearly not good enough.
I think we should just terminate his contract.
I think we can probably get a top deal for Pablo Mari now. We can't get $9 million for him, so let's just swap him for Gabriel. I think that's
seems like a legitimate
the wrong guy back home. I think.
Or swap him with Valencia's Gabriel and get him back because we miss him so much.
I would really take him back.
He's got a lot better since he left.
I would really take him back.
Has he gotten any better looking since he left? Because that dude never really played.
Wearing a white shirt each week has made it even worse. So.
All right, let's go to the chat room and say hi to some people. We got Mr. Boblex, we got Walker Texas Gooner, we've got Mr. Ziegler, Don Juan.
Let's hear your men of the match, ladies and gentlemen.
Matthew D'Souza, Michael Vesser. Yeah.
How do you pronounce that, Vesser?
Hola to Michael Hernandez. Who else? We got the beautiful and gorgeous Becca.
We got Bobby Chakraboody.
We got Ryan Costs. Let's go Avs.
And David Ziegler. I'm not giving him David today because of
Grant Wilburn.
Nasty things he said on Twitter.
Oh, look at this sexy son of a bitch with broken ankles. We got Fredo.
Do we catch Ryan Cost yet?
We caught him.
I'll be seeing him over across the pond. So Tom, Get ready.
Nice.
Get ready to meet the one and only Ryan Cost.
I think that's I up a lot. All right, so let's go to the man of the matches in the group. We've got Michael Besser saying Xhaka. Ooh, Sebi's here saying yo. I don't think he played yesterday.
Is he saying like in Spanish? Is he saying like I was the man of the match? Not me personally, but like he's saying that he was man of the match. Yo soy el hombre de la Machio.
Yeah, you've lost it. It's not funny. All right, Mike, who's your man of the match?
Eddie Nketiah, just because of Tom. No, honestly, I'm going to go with Saka. He's one of our own, and he just the adaptability with the intensity and the sprightliness, if you will, and that finish. I mean, I could give it to them just for that finish alone, but managed to play very far up to play like a wingback in a back four without, in this case, compromising defensively, and that may be a shout to his teammates for the way that they cover for his runs, but love it. An honorable mention, and I'm 100% seriously about this, even though I am hosting a meeting of the official fan club of this player at the moment, but I'll give honorable mention to Granit Xhaka. Drifting to the back mid-game. He won the Ballon de Van Dijk for his tackle on Solanke with about 10 minutes left. I mean, that was a thing. That Mustafi could learn from that. Let's put it that way. So
looks like Mr. Boblex is saying hi Sebi, and Saka is his choice. We've got Matt D'Souza saying Xhaka, Hernandez saying Saka or Xhaka, Sebi saying Saka. Man of the match has to be Martin Tyler and his rotation of at least 7 different pronunciations of Saka, and that's coming from Ziegler. Tom, who was your man of the match?
I still think they should use his full name that I disclosed last week on the podcast.
Saka.
Saka. Yeah, it was Bukayo, Saka, Goldstein, Arnoldowitz, or something like that.
I don't think you can go past Saka too much in terms of man of the match. I really don't. I think it was a great performance from him, great goal, great assist. I've been saying that he needs to work on his deliveries into the box, and that was a great delivery into the box. He needs to work on his lofted balls rather than his ground crosses. But yeah, for sure, Saka all day long.
I think Reece Nelson's got a bit of a hurdle in front of him at this point. That's professionalism right there, folks. Your guest is feeling a sneeze coming on. He mutes himself,
there you go.
Sneezes quietly, and then unmutes himself.
There you
folks, go. That's why James Bench told us to have Tom on today.
We've come a long way since the three of us podcasted once with fart noises in the background.
Yeah, there was a dog, I believe, at one point. There were kids crying and sirens going off. So you're man of the match, Andy.
Yeah, I'll echo. I think Saka was great. Honorable mention probably to Willock. I thought he was really, really good. On the first goal, I as he was running into the 18, I was thinking, oh, here we go again, because he never knows when to pull the trigger, and he actually distributed just perfectly. And so I'll give him an honorable mention. So
a little honorable mention into Grant's search history on his phone,
Which, Grant, that means that you're typing Pukaki way too much in your phone.
Yeah, that's my point. I think he probably understands that and just wanted to share with us.
Yeah.
So let's go to some user questions. All right, boys? And then we're going to make this a nice, short, compact podcast. If anyone wants to add any questions.
What the fuck is with Pablo Mari?
Yeah. I was looking forward to asking James Benj about that because he's tonight, but what's your intelligence, Tom, on the Pablo Mari situation?
No, I don't know a thing. I've not made any videos on him whatsoever, so I know nothing.
Not him as a player, but it's back on apparently right now. It never wasn't back on. It's just
effectively, as far as I'm aware, it was always planned that he would go back to Brazil. It was never like he would come over, do the medical return.
It's always planned that these comments were going to come out from the president of Flamengo or whatever.
Yeah, like I think that I do think that Arsenal rushed it a bit. I think that this hasn't been the smoothest of operations. I do think there's been a little bit of mischief on Arsenal's behalf in terms of not really being clear on the deal and sort of maybe tapping the player up a little bit, but ultimately, the ball is in Arsenal's court now because the player wants to go. That is very clear. He's told Flamengo that he wants to leave, and I think it is literally a matter of time. There were some interesting reports that came out today saying that Arsenal have actually agreed and resolved their pricing issues with Shakhtar Donetsk from Matvienko. And
leverage, or are they looking at both of them?
Well, there's three routes. Either Arsenal go down the route of just sticking with their guns and going with Pablo Mari, or they switch tax and spend a bit more with an option to buy at the end or obligation to buy Matvienko in the summer, or they go and get both. But I think the Mustafi thing, as Arteta said after the game, changes nothing. But I think that Pablo will be the guy that comes in the end, and Arsenal will still go for another centre-back in the summer, maybe.
Well, there's a lot of changes back there. Now, we have a question from David Ziegler that he's been asking for weeks, and we're going to finally to get this one answered. And it's a serious one this time. When Lacazette first joined, there were suggestions that his goal output was boosted by taking a lot of penalties for Lyon. Absolutely can't criticize his work rate, but is his recent goal slump, and I would claim there's been a couple of extended goal slumps in his time with us, just a reversion to the mean. And Tom, that means like when the number is high and then it gets really low, but it's really just average.
Yeah. What's my day job?
Geography teacher.
No, I think we knew what we were getting with Lacazette. I think we were getting a striker that would give us what we thought would be a higher output than Olivier Giroud would. However, the issues with Lacazette is that Giroud became so integral to the way that we played football and the use of his hold-up play that Lacazette sort of got merged into a half Giroud, half number 9 style striker, where he was being basically so much emphasis being put on him to be the guy that would hold the play up and create opportunities, but also to score the goals. And he's kind of swayed more towards the Giroud-esque side of things than maybe he should have or what the club would have wanted him to do. And I think that definitely went even more so when we signed Aubameyang, because signing Aubameyang meant that you then had a number 9 that would score you 30 goals a season if he was allowed to play centrally. But then because you've now got 2 strikers in a team that only plays with a single striker, it's now meant that Aubameyang's been pushed wide. Laka's playing through the middle, but Laka's being tasked with trying to create opportunities for our wide forwards, being Alba and what is now Pepe and what was Mkhitaryan in the last season. So it's a really odd situation for Laka. I don't regret us making the signing, but I will continue to ask the question, since we signed Alba and Laka, do we really think that our attack has improved in terms of goal output since Walcott and Olivier Giroud left? Because I don't think we're scoring any more goals, and arguably there are less people on the pitch scoring goals as well. So it's a real controversial question, I feel, but one that's worth asking.
I do think that with you hear that, David? That was worth asking. I do think that eyes are open to the fact that if we start next season without one of Lacazette or Aubameyang, that everything might be okay. Whereas I'm not sure people were feeling that way a month or two ago. There was another question in the chat room about the kind of the credibility of the board with Arsenal. This is from Mike Hernandez, who could have just DM'd it to you through FIFA. But does the Arsenal board lose credibility if the Mari deal falls through just because of the optics of it?
I don't think so, because
how much more credibility in the eyes of fans could the board lose anyway?
Well, because like there could be other deals where this could be essentially a short-term play, because he's a player that we don't know much about, so maybe we're just bringing him in at a low fee. But it could have also been leveraging other deals. As Tom said, he was always due to go back to Brazil anyway. So until the transfer deadline day approaches and passes, I'm not going to grade any of this, because we never know what the fuck's going on. I love that there were people on Twitter. Yeah, there were people on Twitter with, he's taking the number 4 shirt. Like, no one knows that amount of detail. And yeah, the assumption is if he doesn't come in, but at the end of the day, players come and go through clubs. Like, we see it on transfer deadline day all the time. They go for medicals and something happens. So just because Edu met him at the airport and gave him a lift to the ground means absolutely nothing. He could have failed his medical for all we know, and it's just not public knowledge. Like, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. If it's the fee and it's just a couple £1 million, then that's something that I would be concerned about. But until we close this window, what's nice though, guys, is we're talking about central defenders coming in, right? There's actually some motion happening. And Arteta said yesterday we're looking at 1 or 2 players. So whether that be who we linked with at Southampton, isn't there a center back? Yeah. So whether it's bringing in some depth, I don't know. But what we do know is we're not going to be signing a £70 million center back to come in January.
Upamecano's not walking through this door in the next few days.
No.
Nor probably should he at this point, given the long-term plan. But anyway, one more question, and that is from David Ziegler. If the Premier League allowed teams to do pro wrestling type entrances, which player on our team would have the best one? I think it's unquestionably, and I'm just assuming this question is best handled by me for reasons I can't figure out, Guendouzi. It's got to be Guendouzi. Between the energy, the hair, I see that kind of Ultimate Warrior type of thing. A little bit of Andy mixed in as the heel, but his entrance would have fireworks and laser and all that shit. And yes, Socrates would probably be more like the Undertaker because they both operate at the same speed. So. Tom, anything you want to promote, or any exciting interviews coming up, or
No, I mean, Tactical Breakdown will likely be out tomorrow covering Cedric Suarez, seeing as that's the latest guy to be linked. So I'm sure.
What level of linkage does tips a show being created over a person? Like, is it Indy Kalia or Moley or like when on Twitter? What Twitter account says, okay, this player's linked with Arsenal, and then forces you?
I actually feel like there's a guy on Twitter which just goes by the name of Zed.
Yeah, I actually have seen that. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
And to be fair, whilst he always sources everything that he writes, so that's why it's not really tweets that are just put out claiming things. It's a tweet that he clearly follows plenty of people, and I actually use Twitter sites like that to see if we're interested in someone, and then if I can get hold of someone who knows a lot about that player, then I'll do a video on it. So, yeah.
Interesting
but yeah, tactical breakdowns and galore. But yeah, we uploaded a video today on Pablo Mari, second tactical breakdown of him, and we chatted to one of easily the best named guests we've had on in Blaise, which is quite Blaise Bourgeois is his name. So fantastic.
Does he just walk around going all the time? Like,
he's Colombian actually, so I don't know why he would be speaking.
My question still stands though.
But yeah, no, he came on and he did some he's a Flamengo fan as well, so he knew all of his stuff about Pablo Mari, so that was great.
And everybody go to www.thegoonertvmerch.com. Pick up those t-shirts, those slippers, the underwear. And
all the merch,
the Tom Canton condoms, and Fleshlight. So that's all on sale right now. I believe you're gonna Gav's Gav's shop is gonna pick up some of those items to distribute. But anyway, Andy, anything to promote and talk about any of your other podcasts and any trips? Your Dolphins coming up for you pretty soon?
Next week, yeah, I'll be down in Mexico. I think we can. We've got something fun for Gooners versus Cancer coming up. That we'll. How do we want to promote that?
I think we should probably discuss that not on the podcast live, but we'll figure something cool out.
I'm just going to leave this up for the rest of the pod.
Yeah. James Benj, we look forward to having you on, and others. Maybe this is why Vina hasn't come on the podcast yet. You might be right about that, Andy. So, promo code, please, for the Gooner Talk merch. All right, so we will figure out when our next podcast is going to be on. We'll schedule it, and then an hour beforehand, we will reschedule it, just as per our normal routine. But thank you for those of you who were flexible enough to join us, for spending your evening or your afternoon with us, and it's been a winning week. So let's keep it going, boys. Come on, you Gooners.